Hello, and thank you for joining me for the third video in a series titled For Prophecies. In the first two videos, I discussed the three-headed 12-winged eagle as it's described in the prophecy found in 2nd Esdras. And in this video, I'm going to continue on that topic. But before I get into the topic of the three-headed eagle, I'd like to talk a little bit about the book of Esdras itself, for it makes up one of the 14 books of the apocrypha. I'm going to discuss a little bit about this because I know there are many Christians who claim that the apocrypha are all Gnostic writings, that they were rejected because they are Gnostic. I get this from many Christians. Many Christians reject any book that is found outside of the 66 books that make up the Protestant Bible. But I tell you that this Bible of 66 books does not include all of God's written word, and it's important to understand this. This is especially true when it comes to prophecy. For example, in this prophecy that I'm talking about the three-headed eagle, God actually tells the prophet Ezra that he is giving him new revelation and understanding of the beast that Daniel saw in his vision. So this is new information that was withheld from Daniel that you won't have if you only read the 66 books of the Protestant Bible. God, he splits up the revelations that are given to the different prophets so that no one prophet was given all of the information regarding the end times. And yet today there are many Christians making videos and preaching from behind a pulpit that they've received revelation and understanding of the beast as it's described in the book of Daniel. The problem is that what they are teaching does not line up with 2nd Esdras. It doesn't line up with the vision that the prophet Ezra received. There are Christians who are making the claim that the beast is Islam and that the false prophet will come out of Islam. Well, this is a lie. Is Islam a false religion? Yes, but it's not the beast, and it's not where the false prophet will come from. Others say, no, it's the United States. The United States is the beast. Others say the United States is the city of Babylon and the great prostitute. Others say that it's both. But they can't be both. The beast and the great prostitute are two separate entities. The one hates the other and ends up destroying it. So there are many teachings out there that are completely out in left field, and it's because most Christians do not have all of God's written word. All they have is the Reader's Digest version that is found in their Bible. They are missing much. And I tell you, if they are missing all this information regarding prophecy, and yet they are preaching and teaching on the topic of prophecy, then how can you also trust them when it comes to salvation? For the same people preaching and teaching about end-time prophecy are also preaching about salvation. And if they are out in left field regarding prophecy, I tell you there's a very likelihood that they are also out in left field when it comes to preaching and teaching salvation. So my suggestion is, if anyone tells you that all of God's written word is included in 66 books, well, you need to walk away from them. They are blind and deaf, and you simply will not be able to get through to them unless the Holy Spirit actually does invest some time and energy into them. But most Christians will reject these teachings. Most Christians want to hold to the belief that all of God's written word is included in the Bible, but they could never come to this conclusion if they actually read the Bible on their own. They simply could not ever conclude that. They have to be fed this teaching, and they then in turn simply parrot the same teaching, preaching and teaching the traditions of man. So I just wanted to express the importance of having all of God's written word, and the fact that 2nd Esdras is an inspired work of God, and that no one can understand prophecy and should not be preaching and teaching prophecy unless they do in fact have all of God's written word. All right, having explained that, let's recap some of the things I talked about in the first two videos. I explained that the eagle, or the banner of the eagle that Hitler adopted while he had Germany and much of Europe under his thumb, is actually a sign from God. God is shining a light on Hitler and on Germany, showing us that they are the beast, that they are the eagle that is talked about in the prophecy of second Esdras, and they are the beast that is talked about in the book of Daniel and also in the book of Revelation. The Holy Roman Empire is the beast, and Germany is the Holy Roman Empire. I explained that this banner has an eagle with 12 feathers on the outside of its wings, 6 on each wing, and that this eagle is also sitting on a perch that has 8 parts to it. Well, this lines up with the prophecy that there are 12 feathers and then also 8 contrary feathers. I also explained in the last video that Hitler is the first eagle's head to awaken, and that the first eagle's head is very oppressive, more oppressive than any of the 12 feathers or the leaders that came before him. Hitler then is this very oppressive leader who took over much of Europe, conquered countries and territory, and oppressed people. He is the first eagle's head. I also explained that he actually did die in his bed, that this idea that Hitler and his bride committed suicide is false, and I gave you some evidence to this, that Hitler actually escaped and did not commit suicide, but rather used a body double. I then explained who 2 of the first 12 feathers are. I went to the very beginning of this prophecy, looking at the 12 feathers and looking at the first 2. For the prophecy doesn't describe much about the other feathers, but it does talk about the first 2. And I explained that these 2, or I should say the first feather, who is Ferdinand III, came into power while Europe and the Holy Roman Empire were in this period known as the 30-Year War, and that Germany was especially hit hard. In fact, in parts of Germany, 50% of the male population were killed in the war, either by the actual war itself or by famine and disease. So there was this devastating time, and a time of great strife, that this first feather came into power. And then we find that the second feather is Leopold I, and this lines perfectly with the prophecy. For the prophecy tells us that the second feather will reign longer than any of the others, and also that it will have a great time. Well, I explained that Leopold I reigned for 47 years, and that this is in fact longer than any Roman emperor either before or after him. And I'm talking about the Holy Roman Empire that began in 800 AD with the first Holy Roman Emperor being crowned by the Pope. And then we go all the way up to Hitler, and we find that Leopold I reigned by far the longest with 47 years. And he also had a great time in that he conquered new territory. So the prophecy fits perfectly with these first 2 and with Hitler. And now I'd like to look at that period in between. I'd like to now look at 2 passages that speak to the time period in between the first 2 feathers and that of Hitler. We find in chapter 11 that it talks about rulers that are set up to rule but rule not. Also in chapter 12 we are told that there is a period in the midst of these 12 feathers where the beast, it comes into this time of great strivings, and that it's in peril of failing. But we are told that it is, after a period, restored again to his beginning. So we know that there is a troublesome time for the beast, which is the Holy Roman Empire. Then we are also told regarding the contrary feathers that their time is small and their years swift. And I will explain who these contrary feathers are, and that this does line up with Scripture in that they are both contrary, in that they are what you might call anti-beasts, and their years are small. Before I explain the contrary feathers, I like to compare a couple of passages from the book of Revelation to that of a passage found in 2nd Esdras, for they are speaking of the same end-time events. God has simply given one prophet one vision and interpretation and explanation, and the Apostle John another. Both of these end time prophecies, though, are speaking about the same fourth beast that was shown to Daniel in his vision. So we have three different prophets who are given end time prophecy regarding the very same event, and they are describing the very same fourth beast that will be in power in the end days. And we are living in that time period now, and people who have all the pieces of the puzzle are able to discern this. We find in the book of Revelation that it talks about one of the seven heads of the beast being wounded, but then it's healed. Well, this very same event is described in 2nd Esdras when it talks about the time of great strivings and this period of peril where it looks like the beast is going to fail, but then it returns to its former glory, or to its beginning. The same event given to two different prophets at two different time periods. This is mind-blowing the way God has done this. So now let's have a look at the Holy Roman Empire and see how it came into a period of great strivings and was in peril of being defeated, but then returned to its beginning, returned to its former glory. And you'll see how the history of the Holy Roman Empire and that of Germany fits perfectly with this prophecy. For the Holy Roman Empire was the seventh head that was wounded and then was healed, and is now the eighth head. It's been said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, I believe the picture you are now looking at is worth far more than 1,000 words. In fact, when it comes to end time prophecy, I would go so far as to say that this picture is by far the most comprehensive and most important picture that you can come across. And the reason I say this is because within this picture you will find a historical account, and you will find evidence of prophecy that has been fulfilled from a number of different writers. I am talking about the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar dreamed of and which the prophet Daniel gave his interpretation of. There's evidence in this picture of that prophecy in part being fulfilled. There's also evidence here of the seven-headed beast, that one of its heads are wounded and then healed. That's found in this picture. There's also evidence of the eighth head coming into power. And there is also, of course, evidence regarding the three-headed, 12-winged eagle that I've been speaking on in this video and the two prior. And all of these prophecies also have to do with the fourth beast that Daniel wrote about. That's why I say this is probably the most important picture that you can come across regarding end-time prophecy, because it speaks to so much of prophecy that has already come to pass. And I would put to you that if someone is unable to discern prophecy that has already happened, then they cannot possibly be trusted when it comes to prophecy that is yet to happen. Do not trust anyone who is speaking about end-time prophecy and things yet to happen when they are unable to discern prophecy that has already come to pass. That is how you will know them. You must test people who are preaching and teaching on end-time prophecy. Test them. See if they are accurate regarding prophecy that has already happened. And if they are not accurate regarding these things, then you should not trust them regarding things yet to come to pass, things yet to happen. Alright, in my next video I'm going to discuss all of these points I just brought up, but I'd like to give you the opportunity to do some of your own research. Look at the faces of the people in this picture. See how the puzzle is put together. Look at the arrows and how they are connected. You should then be able to come to the same conclusion that I have regarding these prophecies that have already come to pass. Alright, as always, I look forward to comments and messages. Till next time, peace and blessings.